Welcome, everyone, to the Meaningful Hearts podcast, where we discuss the everyday questions that make us or break us if we let them. With your hosts, Drew and Daniela. Take our hands and let's walk this journey together. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Meaningful Hearts podcast. And today, we would like to talk about anticipation, anxiety. Anticipating an upcoming event, worried about something that you have no news on or information. Maybe there's a letter coming in the mail with a large sum of money, or maybe no money at all. Well, these things pop into our heads on a daily basis, big or small, and sometimes it can wreak havoc and turmoil in our lives because there's no definitive answer. So we kind of have to sit there for a moment and really just sit there. Be like, damn, I need an answer now, but it doesn't happen that way. Daniela, you know how I'm feeling? You know how you're feeling? Has it happened to you?
Well, I think that for myself, I've learned ways of handling my anticipatory anxiety. I think it would be best if you share a little bit of what's currently going on with you, because you're currently going through it.
Oh, I got to disclose. I'm not getting off the hook, huh?
No.
Okay, well, as of recent, what basically inspired this episode was I'm going to have a talk with my upper management about a possible promotion in my current career or job. And I had a conversation about this movement about 4 to 5 months ago. And the outcome was positive. But before I had that conversation, I was having that, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know, I can only prepare so much for this conversation, but, I've only been with this company for X amount of time. Who am I to step up and say, this is what I'm looking to do? And how are they going to respond? Because the position that I'm going into possibly requires a lot more experience. But given my skill set and given my past track record with companies I've worked for and the type of job that I've done, this is kind of where I'm normally at, not at the position that I'm currently sitting in, but I've evolved in the past. So I know how this all works. And don't get me wrong, I've learned a lot in the position I'm in currently, but it's more or less kind of evolving and showing my best skills forth and being able to be utilized in the way that I believe the company would benefit the most. So I had that conversation, and the conversation went well, and we were going to revisit the next steps in the next 4 to 5 months. So 4 to 5 months flies by really quickly, and here we are again, where we're about to have this conversation this upcoming week. So the questions come into your head again. How is that conversation going to go? Now, I can only check off the boxes that were required of me that would lead up to the follow-up conversation. But a lot of things happen in the world of corporate America. Not slandering or saying anything wrong, but things change, budgets change, ideas change, things go in a different direction. So it's like all these things that are, I guess, compounding on top of me. I mean, this could be a great conversation. It could be a disappointing one. It could be, hey, we have to hold off for longer. I don't know, but I'm just kind of in my head about it, and it kind of sucks, and it doesn't. Daniela?
Wait, I was just thinking, how do you mean it doesn't suck?
Well, it sucks in the sense that, yes.
I said doesn't suck.
Well, I'm saying that, for one, it sucks in the sense that I am on the fence, right? Because I don't know what's going to happen. It could be good or bad, right? And then doesn't suck, meaning that it's always fun to have the conversation and then know the result afterwards and be like, wow, I was worried about it, but now I'm super excited. It can go from, it actually helps. It's like the balance of things, right? With joy comes sadness, and sadness and joy. It's kind of a balance that makes you feel good. You have to sometimes go through the turmoil to enjoy things. So this is, I guess, part of the process. So it does and does not suck, depending on how you look at it. I'm excited either way, but it just kind of sucks that I don't know. I don't have I'm not privy to that window of the future. I mean, nobody is. And I guess that's the part of it that kind of sucks, but doesn't, because it's kind of exciting, but it's not exciting. It's a little bit of both. It's like bitter, I guess bittersweet would be the name, the word.
Yes, I think it is bittersweet. It sounds like your anticipatory anxiety shows itself in two ways. The fact that it sucks to not know. It sounds like within the unknown, you start to have these thoughts of what's going to come out of this conversation. Is it going to be a good thing? Is it going to be a bad thing? What's going to happen? What are they going to say? What am I going to say? Kind of stuff like that. But at the same time, you're also excited because it is a possibility. You know, it sounds like you're weighing out both things. Yes. I wonder, how does your anticipatory anxiety present itself physically? Like, what do you physically feel in your body, like sensationally?
I don't.
Good question. Let's go.
I guess it's not.
You're a more cerebral person.
I'm more cerebral. Don't get me wrong. I would say the first time around, because it was a longer hang time as far as when I was going to have this conversation, was put off. I was supposed to have it immediately, and then it took months for that conversation to happen. So I had a lot of time to really think, "Wow, how is this going to go?" But in that time, it was, you know, I guess leading up, like when it's like, "All right, Andrew, you're on conversation." My palms get sweaty, my heart rate goes up, so I get like, you know, it's a mixture of butterflies, but, you know, kind of just trying to keep myself not nervous. It's kind of hard to do that. So I guess I'm feeling the anxiousness of having the conversation. I don't have the butterfly sense yet. I don't have the rapid heart rate. That's going to come more like the adrenaline's going to pump when I'm actually going to do it. Like you're about to go on stage and perform, because that's when you get put under the hot light and you get, you know, you don't know what that conversation is going to be. You don't know what kind of questions. So all you could do is kind of trying to pre-answer what you think those questions would be. And I've done that before, and I do prepare. So I'm going to do that, but it's still a little nerve-wracking. So right now it's just more of a cerebral dojo experience.
So it sounds like you have some tools to work through the anxiety part of it, like the physical anxiety, at least, where you imagine like the questions and then you kind of prepare what your response might be. You kind of write out some of these questions, which is a really good tool. Yeah. And the reason why I asked about what do you feel physically is because when it comes to our listeners, these are some of the things to explore when you're thinking about your anticipatory anxiety. What are the thoughts that you're experiencing? Kind of like what you're saying, Drew, of, you know, I ask myself these questions of what it's going to be like. I have thoughts about the unknown and what it might be like, but also then incorporating your physical self of what do I feel physically? What does that look like? So those two things are like a start to work through the anxiety. I wonder, Drew, for you, what do you think is making you the most anxious right now?
I guess the thing that would probably make me feel the most anxious is, I guess it's the fear of rejection, right? We don't like to be rejected. Nobody likes to hear the word no, especially when you already said, do these things. And I even in my conversation said, I could hang my hat on what you're telling me, but I like definition of when this is going to transpire. So it was more like, you are going to get promoted to this, but do these two things in the meantime and ramp up to this. And then we'll revisit the conversation at the end of the fiscal year. So with that being said, it's like, okay, now I know these months are when I'm supposed to be out there doing that specific job. So for me, that's like being told that's not going to happen. Like kind of having that in my mind is like the fear of rejection. Like, what changed really? Like, or why now? Like, I gave you the chance to have that conversation saying, hey, you know what? You're not ready yet. You need this much more time. These are the things that you don't know and you need to do them. It wasn't that, we had that thorough conversation, and it wasn't that. So I don't want, and I guess in my mind, it's like, what if somebody turns around? I mean, it's happened before. People turn around and they say something else. And I fear that, I guess. I fear that we're not on the same page. I fear that I might get turned down all of a sudden. I don't know. And it's not like I did anything. It's not on my end. It's not for lack of trying. It's just kind of, I guess, an irrational fear, possibly, or 50-50.
I wouldn't say that it's an irrational fear per se. I would say that it's a pretty understandable fear. I was actually just thinking, wow, that's pretty vulnerable of you to admit. And I wonder if anybody listening can relate, because I think it is pretty understandable to have a fear of rejection. You're right. We don't like to feel rejected. And I think that's part of what goes into anxiety and anticipatory anxiety, is the fear of rejection, because ultimately what it really comes down to is what goes beyond the rejection, how we feel about ourselves. Why was I not good enough? Why did they change their mind? So it's pretty understandable that would be your, I guess, like, what you're most anxious about.
Especially because I'm told that I'm underutilized, and
Sure.
the pedigree of salesperson that I am, and what I've done in the past, this would be more suited for me. So with you telling me that, it's like, well, if a Jaguar can run, why is a Jaguar not running, kind of thing? It's like, we know you're a Jaguar. We just need you to run. And this is when you're going to start running. And obviously, I'm not going to be as fast as the other Jaguars yet, but with enough time out in the field, I get my running legs back, and I could see it there. Like with everything, there's a learning curve. Doesn't matter how many industries you go into, there is a learning curve, and I understand that, and I'm humble in that sense. I just want to know what tools I have that I can utilize to make myself, and pick other people's brains just to get me up to snuff so that I can do these things. So it's not coming from a place of, oh, I know everything and I'm just going to kick some ass and you have no clue what you're in for. It's not like that. It's more like, I know what I'm capable of, but I understand this is a different industry, and I'm looking for the challenge. The whole idea is the challenge. I like the challenge. This is hard. It's not easy, but that's where the reward comes. That's where the reward comes in all this. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to better myself and become better, right? This is what we talk about in our podcast, about being better than we were, and putting ourselves in places that make us vulnerable and scared. But when we level up, we're grateful that we did, but you got to go through the gauntlet to get to the other side. And I'm putting my money where my mouth is.
Yeah, I was actually also just thinking, it's so funny sometimes, like, I feel like you're reading my mind. Because I was literally just thinking, like, in you acknowledging that you had a moment of vulnerability, and it led to exploration of what you're ultimately looking for, beyond the rejection, or with this opportunity, is a chance to grow. And I think that that's very important, because we forget to apply that in our lives when we're anxious about something, when we're, especially in anticipation, right? We're just thinking of, like, oh my God, like, this is really nerve-wracking. Like, what's going to come out of this? And I think you actually just touched upon something else that can help you or me or anybody listening work through their anxiety, is asking ourselves, how is this going to help me grow? Like, what is a challenge here? It's really about the type of questions that we ask ourselves in the process that help us work through the anxiety, at least for me. That, and combining, like I was saying before, the body awareness, because that's important too. When you're aware of yourself and what you're currently experiencing, you can apply some things. It sounds really cliche, but breathing for anticipation is pretty important, because it helps you get centered around your physical self. So, like, if you've got sweaty palms, like, acknowledging that you've got sweating palms, and then shifting your focus. It's not avoidance, but it's shifting your focus to your breath, helps your palms actually slow down a little bit, because your physical self is now focusing on a component of you that is still, I guess, I don't know if tangible is the word, but you're still focusing on a physical part of yourself is really what I'm ultimately getting at. I feel like I just rambled. I feel like I say that a lot too, that I either ramble or I wonder if I make sense.
We're getting t-shirt made.
Yeah.
T-shirts made.
Yeah.
But I think that it's very important in the moment, right? We could always think before the moment or for future reference, when I'm feeling this type of way, to stop, pause, and focus on my breathing, focus on my actual physical state, and try to control it, try to calm myself down. I've tried and made attempts at this while in state. I did this last time I actually had the conversation and kind of just, made myself aware of, just to keep myself kind of calm and collected. Sometimes it doesn't work, especially when I have maybe some less desirable conversations that kind of, I guess, amp me up a little bit. And I get a little more excited when I speak, which it happens. But being aware of it and breathing is the first step into changing your physical state. And it's a constant practice. I think that for me, this whole journey, I didn't, and when I first started working for this company, there was nobody that told me I was going to go to the outside and work on the outside end of sales. It was inside sales at first, but I kind of took it upon myself to know more about it. It piqued my curiosity. What do these guys do out there? In this company, how does that work? Is there a commission? Well, listen, at the end of the day, I want to know if it's worth my efforts, right? I mean, it's not just growth in the sense of learning an industry, but is it lucrative? And do you get to see a bigger part of the industry? So for me, I wanted to ask these questions, and I picked the brains of the guys that were out there doing it. And that's really where it started for me. So I think in a sense, I did take the initiative, but nobody ever told me to do this. Sure. So I'm pretty proud of myself that
I'm proud of you too.
Thank you. That I put myself in this position. So whatever happens going forth, I've already had the conversation and they know where I stand, versus, there are a lot of people that just sit around and wait for, I don't know, another penny in their basket. Oh, thank you for another year. Here you go. Here's a little bit more. Keep doing what you're doing. I want more. I want to be able to do more. And when I feel that I'm not maximizing on my abilities because the where I'm sitting will allow for complacency, I need to get myself uncomfortable again. And that comes with challenges. And I welcome them. And this is kind of the energy that I'm going to bring into the conversation once again, that money's great, but money's not everything. Growth, it ultimately will always supersede money, because with growth comes money. But you need to feel challenged and not, so you won't be bored. I mean, it's important. So for me, it's a next step, and I'm looking forward to it. But I just wanted to share with everyone, disclose what I was feeling. I'm sure you got another question for me.
I actually don't. I was actually thinking, like, that's a pretty powerful way to start to kind of summarize what we've talked about, because that's ultimately what it does come down to. Part of anticipation and anticipatory anxiety and putting those things together and et cetera, is ultimately realizing that you're bound to have these feelings. You're bound to go through these moments, so long as you're placing yourself in situations that are uncomfortable, that are challenging, that are going to help you grow. And as cliche as it may sound, the more that you do it, the more that you learn how to work through the anticipation. I know for me, the way that I learned to work through anticipation is to imagine myself on the other end of a positive outcome. What that's going to look like. Kind of like what we talked about last episode about clutter, and how the discomfort of like thinking about what it's going to look like, how am I going to get it to do that, how I work through that is thinking about what my room is going to look like afterward, how excited I'm going to feel, how good I'm going to feel. Same thing with anticipation, right? Whether it's an event, whether it's a conversation, whether it's an experience, whether it's an uncomfortable conversation, thinking about how relieved you're going to feel or how it's rewarding to challenge yourself. I think that's a really good way to really, I guess, top it off.
Yeah.
the episode and also in anxiety.
Going for the end zone, whether you made 10 yards, 20, you moved in that direction, and you know that you could, even if you crash and burn, you know that you were moving in the right direction. And there's no shame in trying, ever. Never.
Yeah. It ultimately sounds like, for me, it comes down to 3 things. The first thing is recognizing what you're feeling and thinking, your thoughts and your physical self. And then, asking yourself questions. And then ultimately understanding that it's going to help you grow in some way, shape, or form, and that you should be proud of yourself no matter what the outcome is. Just like I think, Drew, for you, no matter what the outcome is, I'm still very proud of you that you took on the challenge. And I know that you're proud of yourself. So yeah, I definitely rambled, but I think it made sense. And there I go again, saying that.
Yes. I'm feeling better already, actually.
That's awesome.
I've actually been asking myself this question, like, Andrew, whatever happens, it's notable to say that everything's going smoothly, things are good, but they could always be better. And that's kind of what I always look at. And I always want to be able to do that in every facet of my life, not just in work, not just in this, but in every facet, in fitness, eating, right? Just being aware. I mean, I think we've created such awareness in our diets, but it's just that one step saying, hey, there's more I could do. Let me inquire a little bit.
Yeah.
Inquire in your lives, people. There's always room for improvement and growth. And as long as you embody that, your life will never be dull, and you'll always be out there looking for more.
Yes. Even when you're anxious about it, you're still learning.
Yes. I will leave you to it, people. We love you very much, and thank you for listening.